the half-ounce spinnerbait is very versatile, and I would recommend, if you're starting out fishing spinnerbaits, start out with the half-ounce spinnerbait. So it's really important you want to use 100% fluorocarbon, or at least fluorocarbon coated line when you're throwing these spinnerbaits. It's real important, especially in those clear water fisheries, rivers, etc. So keep that in mind. Another thing that's really important when you're fishing spinnerbaits is patience. You're going to be taking a lot of casts. It's going to feel like you're casting forever. It's one of those baits that you can slow roll and fish it slow and methodically and just really grind that bait, and boom. Alright guys, and one of the reasons you just got to have a spinnerbait tied on during spring and fall time, and when that water is stained all the way to chocolate milk, muddy water, you want to have a spinnerbait tied on. And one of the reasons is because it displaces a lot of water. So it gives off a thump, it gives off flash, it displaces a lot of water, and that's all very important. That's key during that time of year, and with those conditions you want to have a spinnerbait. Now, there are times that the spinnerbait's going to excel in the fisheries or bodies of water where you have a lot of bait fish, a good bait fish population. You have shad or kokanee, things like that, that even trout, that this spinnerbait can really imitate. Alright guys, if it doesn't have a good bait fish population, if it doesn't have a lot of trout, kokanee, shad, doesn't really have any of those things, there are times when the spinnerbait will not be as effective. Alright guys, another thing to remember is the bigger the bait fish, the bigger, you know, the fish, the body of the water that you're fishing, the more an abundance you have of, say, trout, kokanee, or shad, or even bluegill, perch, things like that. You can really upsize these spinnerbaits. You can upsize all your baits in general. The profile itself is going to get you a lot more attention. It's going to draw fish from further away. It's going to cast a bigger shadow. All this is important. All this comes into play, and it's very key. So get out there, get yourself a spinnerbait. Spring and fall, get yourself a spinnerbait. Go out there, try it.
You can also go ahead and burn spinnerbaits, and you can fish them fast. Now, I personally haven't done very well at Lake Chabot fishing spinnerbaits fast and burning them. I personally like to slow roll those spinnerbaits at Chabot. I like to do that because there's poor water quality there, and this really allows my bait to stay in the strike zone as long as possible, give that fish more time to hone in on and find that bait. I like to give my rod a slight twitch now and then as I'm retrieving my spinnerbait. Cast out my spinnerbait, let it sink, and before I start to retrieve, I'm going to go ahead and give that spinnerbait a jerk. And one of the reasons I'm going to do that is I'm going to be fishing this spinnerbait as slow as I possibly can, but it's very important, it's very key that those spinnerbait blades are turning, that they're spinning. So as slow as you can go, but it's important to make sure those blades are spinning. That light jerk, it really ensures, from my experience, that those blades spin, everything's working the way it's supposed to. And spinnerbait can be most deadly is when you slow roll it, and the bait just tends to draw fish, especially Lake Chabot water clarity, like I was just mentioning. The spinnerbait, I'm a huge fan of bumping, whether it's bumping rock or bumping wood, and what this does is it triggers fish to react and strike. So you can catch fish that normally wouldn't have necessarily taken your profile. The spinnerbait, I'm a huge fan of bumping, whether it's bumping rock or bumping wood, and what this does is it triggers fish to react and strike. So you can catch fish that normally wouldn't have necessarily taken your profile. Colorado blades, alright guys, let's talk about blades really quick. Let's talk about what they do specifically. Colorado blades are for displacing lots of water. They displace a lot of water. Willow leaf blades are going to put off lots of flash, and an Indiana blade does a bit of both. It's got the flash and it also displaces some water. And when choosing your spinnerbait, guys, You want something at Lake Chabot that resembles a trout or a crappie, and that's because for the most part these larger bass are feeding on trout that are planted and some crappie, which are wild there at Lake Chabot. And I know a lot of people don't fish for crappie, they don't catch a lot of crappie supposedly at Lake Chabot, but I've been there, I've seen it. There are crappie, I've seen people catch them. So maybe they're not as thick and abundant as they were in the 70s and 80s when I hear people talking about the buzz, but I'm telling you straight up, those bass are eating two things for the most part: larger profiles, meals, and that's going to be those trout and that's going to be those crappie. You're going to be able to get away with a really bold color like white at Lake Chabot, something that really just sticks out. You can do this. You can add a trailer. Some of my favorite trailers are Zoom Twin Tails and the Kitech Fat Swing Impact and 4.8 inch. Those are really good trailers. So you can add a trailer. Some of my favorite trailers are Zoom Twin Tails and the Kitech Fat Swing Impact and 4.8 inch. Those are really good trailers. Alright guys, I hope this helps. Hope this gets you guys into some fish at Lake Chabot. It's a tough fishery in general. It's hard, and it really tests each fisherman to his...
I don't really know what comes next. I'm just doing my best, even though I'm so stressed out. Everything just feels like a test that I fail, so depressed.